that's the connections I wanted to explore. The next part is some individuals and responses to this. So I would like to ask, has James joined our webinar? Yes, because, well, let me introduce James and then invite him to take over. James is currently an honors biology student at the University of Dayton. He is a senior, again, majoring in biology. He, for some reason, chose to take my biology class from me not once, twice, but 3 times. Poor James. And he is a very bright student. He's a good person. He's graduating in December, so if anybody knows a good person looking for a job, wants to hire somebody, let's see. So what he's going to talk about is some actions that we took as a class and as an individual. So James, I will advance things along at your command.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Alrighty. We can go to like the first slide. Sweet. So Professor Dillon wants me to talk a little bit about my experience and what we did to respond to all this. But before I talk about what we responded with as a class, I want to kind of talk about what she did as a course. And so what we all learned today was just a little snapshot of what we started learning in her class. Her Bio 496 Air Pollution and Human Health course was kind of a 2-part course. And so for the first part of the course, we learned all about the science behind air pollution. And so we got a snapshot of all that. We talked about the particulate matter 2.5, which before I took the course, I'd never even heard of. I just knew air pollution as a general term. And we learned about all of the negative effects that it had on people and breathing it in and how we don't have evolutionary defenses. And then we also learned about the people that it was affecting, particularly poorer areas, because that's where these factories were being established and where they were burning coal and all of these unclean resources. And so after we learned the science behind everything, we took a moment to really dive into what was happening specifically in Ohio, because there's air pollution everywhere, but we wanted to look at what was happening in Ohio. And with House Bill 6 just breaking in the last couple years, and some of those aspects from it, such as the energy payments we were making on our energy bill every month to pay for those coal power plants, was still very relevant. And so we then took a deep dive into what happened there. And then after we did that, we decided it was a time to make change, which is, yeah, you can go.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. So we then decided to make a game plan on what we wanted to do to make meaningful change in Dayton community and in Ohio in general. And so we all designed a portfolio, and there was a couple things that myself and my classmates all did together, and then there were some things that we did individually. So it all started with a meeting with the mayor of Kettering, who at the time of House Bill 6, Peggy Lehner, was on the Ohio Congress, and she voted in favor of passing House Bill 6. And so we started off with this because Professor Dillon had a connection with her, and she was kind enough to let us come meet and ask her some questions and talk to her about that and her opinions on it. And what was really interesting to me and what really inspired me for the rest of my portfolio and what I wanted to do to make change was she said that she wasn't quite sure about what she wanted to do and how she wanted to vote. But then she got a call from Governor DeWine himself for her to vote yes on this. And she said that when you get a call from the big boss, the person making all the decisions, you listen. And so that's the main reason why she voted yes on this, is because he himself said yes, and then also talking to some of the people in the Energy Council, who at the time were supposed to be the professionals and unbiased, were telling her that this was a good bill. But of course we learned afterwards that these people were all taking bribe money and were heavily influenced by that, and they weren't doing what was best for everybody involved. And then additionally in that, we had a couple other things that we all did as a class. And so we all did research on our representatives from our counties. And so we wrote letters to them. And I unfortunately never got a response. It takes a little bit, and in the time of the class, I never heard back from my rep. But after that meeting with Peggy Lehner, I got really inspired to just figure out, what was happening and what was preventing all of these provisions from the bill from being reversed. And so I decided to schedule several meetings with different representatives from the Ohio area. And I started off with a meeting with Jim Thomas, who just got reelected. He's a very nice guy, and I had some connections with him through my high school. And he wanted to hear about, what happened, because he wasn't on the house when all of this went down, and he was just really curious as to what happened. And so I took time, about half of the time we had a meeting, explaining to him everything that happened and what this all meant for Ohioans. And so he then took time to explain to me what was happening at that very moment and why there wasn't a bill being passed to reverse the provisions from House Bill 6. And what I learned from him, which again piqued my interest even more, was that the current Speaker of the House has their own committee that they assign all of their people to. And the bill that was put out to reverse all of the provisions put in place by House Bill 6 was yoinked from the committee that originally proposed it and put into his own committee. And I didn't have any idea what that meant before this meeting, but it essentially meant that the current speaker had all of the control over that bill to reverse the provisions of House Bill 6. And seeing as he had no inspiration to do so, that bill was just going to sit there in limbo and never have anything happen to it. And then I wanted to explore some more connections, and I did some digging around, and I learned that I knew someone who worked very closely with the governor's cousin, Kevin DeWine, and I really just wanted to get a bigger picture of what was going on and try to talk to these people who have influence and just share them what I learned and what I thought was important for Ohioans and our health. And so I managed to get a 45-minute phone call with him, and he gave me some different perspectives about some of the reasons why this was initially proposed and what the good parts of House Bill 6 were before there was scandal, and the things he agreed with, the things he disagreed with. And it was just really interesting to get those different perspectives, especially because he was the chair of the Ohio Republican Party for a while, several years. And it was just really interesting to hear what he had to say. And he was very kind and listened to me and gave me some other pointers and different information that I just didn't know. And then additionally, I wanted to try and spread the word in my local community about what was going on. And so I'm going to skip past the letter to the editor real quick and just talk about the petition, because that was one thing that we did as a class. We created a petition just to spread awareness of this, and we all spread it in our circles of friends, family members, family friends, and stuff like that. And we managed to get a little over 200 signatures in 2 weeks, which was really impressive to me, at least, because it's very difficult, I've found, to get people to sign something and to read and to just learn about different things. And so that was a big accomplishment for us. But in addition to that, I had a letter published in a newspaper in my hometown, and that was just a good opportunity for me to share to people in my community what was going on and to bring this back up, because it had passed by, House Bill 6 had happened, scandal broke, and people just kind of forgot. And so I just wanted to bring additional awareness to that. And then finally, one of the things that I did throughout the entire course that wasn't necessarily a huge letter or a meeting with a representative was I just took time to talk to my peers. I talked with the various clubs I was in. I talked with my coworkers, and I just shared everything about this that I knew because I thought it was really important to be active and to pay attention and to try and make change that is important. And so, do you want to go to the next slide, Professor Dillon?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Trying to. It's stuck, huh?
Yeah, you're good.
That's weird.
Well,
Oh, there we go. We got
okay.
it. We got it.
Um, so um, this slide's a little messed up, but um, one thing that I did following this course, because originally my plan was just to go into environmental science, be a conservationist or an ecologist somewhere. But one thing that this course taught me is that there's so much more to being a activist and caring about the environment than just going in and doing restoration projects and stuff like that. And so I applied and got into a program called Dayton to DC, which allowed me to learn about the workings of DC, the different opportunities to have there. And then that trip actually culminated, or that class culminated with a trip to DC where I spent a very busy several days networking with alumni and people working in the government and learning about what it is like to work for the federal government and in and around DC. And it just really piqued my interest. And I decided on that trip, I said, okay, I love going out in the woods and doing all that fun stuff and, removing invasive species, but I want to make real change. And so I decided that after this class and after that trip, I was going to try and work my way into the activism route. I don't know what that quite looks like, but I'm hoping to either work for a nonprofit or another organization that does activism involving the environment. And for the future, I'm graduating soon. I'm looking for work, but I also recently applied for the Fulbright scholarship so I can study in Sweden and get a degree in sustainable development, a master's degree in that, to just help me further my goals of really making meaningful change.
Thanks,
That's all I
James.
got.
All right.